Background: I am a 37-year-old female. I support my parents financially and my only sibling's education. My husband doesn't want me to support my brother, and he kept talking inside the car. Why would I do that? I need to stop it. I couldn't take it anymore and wanted to get out of the car to get some space. He was driving while he wouldn't stop the car, and I tried to open the door because I really couldn't take his non-stop accusations. So he stopped the car in the emergency lane and left me stranded there in the cold weather. I thought he was going to come back after a while, but he didn't show up. A police officer came by and took me to the nearest town. I had to call Lyft from there to our home. To make it clear, I am an immigrant in the US. I had an arranged marriage with my husband 10.5 years ago. We are both from Southeast Asia. My husband's only qualification to marry me was that he was a US citizen and used to work in a restaurant as a host in New York while I was a graduate of medical school. Literally, I was a doctor in my country, and I didn't want to marry him because of his educational qualifications. To me, it meant nothing that he was a US citizen. I told my parents many times that I didn't want to be married to him, but they didn't listen to me. A bit of background on my parents: they are classic Asian parents and a little more than that. For example, they never, literally never, showed me an ounce of affection. My mom was unhappy that I was a girl, her firstborn, so she used me as a dumping ground for her frustrations. She used to beat me every day, sometimes even 2-3 times with bamboo sticks. Sometimes she would keep beating me till it was broken. Then, when my dad came home, she would complain to him, and he would verbally abuse me. So that was my childhood, but my dad would buy me expensive dresses, let me study, and make sure that everyone knew we had money. But my dad would remind me that if he didn't have to spend money on me, he would be richer than he was. When my brother was born, he was the apple of my mother's eye. I was 6 years old when he was born. I think my torture worsened after he was born, but I never had any negative feelings towards my brother. I helped raise him and even protected him from my parents' anger when they were, very minimally, angry at him. Let me remind you that my dad sponsored my medical education and sent me to a private medical school because it would bring prestige to him and I would be a money-making machine. However, when I said I had no saying in my marriage, it was true. Either that or I would have to leave my house because there was a chance my dad would have a stroke. So I married this guy on the condition that he would support my further education. It was really a transaction. He got a doctor as his wife, and my parents opened a door for them to come to the US. Initially, after marriage, I didn't want to come to the US, but later realized these marriages wouldn't mean anything at a long distance. Also, my husband started to convince me to pursue my career in the US and be a doctor here. During those times, my dad lost his business and became financially ruined. Now, when I came to the US, it was difficult for my husband to support my medical study because he was only driving a yellow taxi then. Let me remind you that I was already done with my medical school, so he only had to give me $1,000, $12,000 for each of the medical licensing exams. There were only 3 exams, and the cost of books and question banks ranged from $100 to $200. Now let me tell you, I studied with the bare minimum of resources because he couldn't afford more money. We were living in a small apartment in NYC, and sometimes he couldn't pay the rent when he was giving me my fees. I mostly used free stuff online and used an updated question bank 1 month before the exam. I didn't have any desks to study on. He got a makeshift shelf for me, it was thrown from a store, to study on, and I studied with that. When I would ask him for the money, he would take 1 week to 1 month to pay for it, so there was a little delay also. But I told myself it would all be over when I became a doctor here. He also paid for my travel during my residency interview and 1 rotation out of state. I sold half of my wedding jewelry during my residency application on my second attempt. I didn't match the first time, so that money was wasted. I was heartbroken when I didn't match on the first attempt, but now during this time, I understand that my husband was a kind man. He really supported me in my depressive state and encouraged me to keep fighting. I finally matched on my second attempt and started my medical training in the US. It wasn't really easy studying before because, as I told you, my dad lost his business and was financially broken. My mom would call me and cry every day to do something about it and to help them financially. While she didn't ask for money directly, she would rather insinuate that if I worked instead of studying for USMLE, I would have been able to support them. But my husband was firm about not letting me work outside except for the things that would help me with my residency application, such as working with another board-certified physician as their assistant. So I was working with different doctors in the US for free to gain clinical experience, but they did give me a LOR during my application. I felt pressured by my mom during those times and really wanted to support them, but it wasn't possible because we were so broken. I clearly remember that our rent was due for 6 months while I was traveling for residency interviews all over the country. Our lives weren't easy. I also had 2 miscarriages, one during my residency interview. I was over 30, so we wanted to have a baby also. I clearly remember losing my second pregnancy before going to an interview at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. I can't explain how difficult those times were. Let me tell you, my mother mentioned to me once why I was trying for a baby because I had to support them. Now, when I started my residency, I also started paying my parents' monthly allowance to support them. A resident's salary in NYC is not much, but I was supporting them whatever I could. It was about $350 per month. I also found out I was pregnant before I started. So my husband had to stop driving a taxi to take care of our daughter at home. I was only getting $3,000 per month during that time, so with a child, it was really tough to support them, but my parents asked for a little bit more money, otherwise, my brother had to stop his education. So despite all the challenges and extreme difficulties, I convinced my husband to give them extra money. We were living in an attic during that time. I was working greater than 80 hours per week, and my husband would drive Uber during the weekend so we could stay financially stable and provide for our child and parents. My husband and I would have a lot of arguments over these, and he would always verbally abuse me because of my financial support for them. Those were a little glimpses of the past. Now I am attending, earning six figures, and really there is little to no financial struggle. My brother is in college, doing his master's, and I need to support him and my parents. Without my help, he would have to stop his education. Yesterday, he was saying why I would have to do that for a grown adult. I was telling him he was my only brothel, what's wrong if I help him? His argument was that he should be able to take care of himself, and it was like a broken radio playing the same thing again and again. I acted out. While I was standing in the middle of the highway, I thought my husband didn't really care about me, otherwise, how could he let me be stranded in the cold on a busy highway? He didn't come back for hours. My parents are as horrible as ever. Today, my dad told me that I got myself sold to my husband. My husband one day got mad at dad because of his inability to support his family and son. When I had a breakdown and told my parents it was their fault that my marriage was over, he told me this. It's like no one in this world genuinely cares about me. I don't know what genuine affection is. Edit. I actually want to make this comment for the people who think I'm here for the victim card and I was here to throw my frustrations. Yes, I was here to get something off my chest. And I wanted a perspective from other people. Now for people who think my husband is a great guy and I am the one who used him, this is for them. I commented before, but this is for everyone. Let me give you a rundown of the expenses for my parents and brother, probably around $500 per month. During the holidays, probably another $250. I started this after I started residency, and now I earn more than $10,000 post-tax. Now my husband is a rich man. You all think he was driving a taxi in NYC, so he was poor. Nope. He has a lot of properties back home. One property in the capital is worth $1 million in the US. He has 6 siblings, all of them living there free of rent and free of utilities because utilities come from the tenants. The total expense for his siblings per month is probably more than $1,000. He doesn't earn a penny from that property because all of it goes to maintenance. Other properties are either left alone or his brothers use them for earning. This has been the case even when we were struggling financially, when he couldn't pay the rent properly, pay for my exam on time, or pay for my residency applications properly. Did you all read that I sold my wedding jewelry for my application? He never brought a single penny from back home to support us, even when we couldn't pay for our living expenses. Now let me give you the irony. All his brothers are of similar age, and he has one sister who lives on his property as well as his husband and kids. I probably told him once or twice to have money from back home when we were struggling, but he never would. He told me that in order to survive here, I would have to do it the way he wants me to. I never brought it up and made peace with it. So what is wrong if I support my brother and parents when we are financially well off? You all think that he would win if I divorced him, because he would get half of what I have. What you don't know is that I would win because he is still richer than me, counting all his properties back home. His hypocrisy is what led me to try to jump from the car. He supported me, yes. I'm thankful for it, but I'm not leeching from him. It's for my mental health and peace. I just want to give money to my parents and brother and be done with it. But my husband doesn't want me to give money to my brother, specifically my brother. Do you understand the issue here now? And I'm still poorer than him compared to his properties and everything back home. I just wanted him to be a little understanding for my peace. That's it, nothing else. I never had any issues with him supporting his siblings when we were struggling here. Why does he have issues now that I am earning money and we are in a good position financially? He has this messed up mindset where he wouldn't bring any money from home. This is why I was saying that he doesn't actually care about me but about my potential to earn money. Yes, I'm here to vent my frustration, and I'm looking into therapy. And yes, I try to avoid arguments and conflicts as much as possible.